Well, before we talk about tomorrow's game, just what a ride it's been for Arizona State. I mean, I can't give enough credit to Kenny Dillingham for the job that he's done. He walked into seemingly an impossible situation to turn around, and he turned it around in the span of 2 years, right? I mean, Arizona State had recruiting sanctions with Herm Edwards. They went 3-9 in his last season. Hell, Arizona State went 3-9 last year in year one of the Kenny Dillingham era. And here they are, a team picked to finish last in the Big 12. They win the conference. They get the first round bye, and they are the home team in a college football playoff game. Just talk about the overall job that Coach Dillingham has done in this remarkable turnaround that he's been able to put together in Tempe.
Yeah, the turnaround has been magical. It's been a miraculous season for sure. And this is something that started last season, right? This is a team that went 3-9. They self-imposed a bowl ban the week of the season opener last year. So that obviously had an impact on the fans, on the seniors. But last year you were able to still see this team fight in some big games, right? They got a win over a ranked UCLA team at the time. They were in it with Washington up until the fourth quarter, where they had a pick six at the very end that obviously didn't go their way. But like you said, they went 3-9. Nobody expected much of this team going into this season. Everyone's seen it, right? This is a team in Arizona State that was picked to finish dead last, 16 out of 16 in a Big 12 conference that had teams like a Cincinnati, had teams like a Houston, even teams like a UCF. But this team really, really found their strength, right? Cam Skattebo, Jordan Tyson, Sam Leavitt, and they leaned on them. But, everybody wants to give credit to those three guys, and I think rightfully so. But this is an Arizona State defense that has played pretty well down the stretch against some teams like Iowa State that have some NFL caliber wide receivers, or a Kansas State on the road, or even a BYU. So this team, like Sark said, just about a half hour ago, this is a team in Arizona State that is playing as good as anybody in the country.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at them, the fact that they have so many guys transfers, that have come in, and you've got to gather all these guys together. And not only do you have to get them situated in a new environment, I mean, still football, but new system, new players around them, new home, away from home. But they've done it in such a hurry, which, I mean, that's just such a credit to that staff to get these guys. And then playing championship football, as you said, they're playing so much better now than they were in the beginning of the season. This is a team defensively and offensively. This offensive line is stout. This defensive line, I don't know if it's one of their strengths, but the linebackers are pretty good. Secondary is okay, but this offensive line is really, really talented.
Yeah, this offensive line is a group that goes as their starting center goes. Lee Fautanu, he was a transfer last season. They also have a guy at guard in Ben Coleman that didn't play a lot last season because of injury. You got Josh Atkins at left tackle, which is kind of an interesting situation because all of camp, it was Emmett Boley was supposed to be the left tackle, and then they roll out there against Wyoming the week before even the start of the season. Josh Atkins, he goes out there, he starts. You have Maxie Ianancher at right tackle, and this is a guy that was a JUCO player. He's a big dude, but he's playing at right tackle, but it all goes as Lee Fautanu goes. He's an all-conference type of center, the best center in the Big 12, and they've done a remarkable job, but they're going to have their hands full tomorrow against an SEC-sized and caliber defensive line in Texas.
Yeah, Anthony Torti from PHNX Sports joining us here talking about Arizona State, one day away from the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl. Anthony, got to ask you about Cam Skattebo. I mean, the numbers kind of speak for themselves, right? 1,500 rushing yards, 19 rushing touchdowns, more than 500 receiving yards as well. This guy has been the total package for Arizona State. You've watched him up close and personal in every game this season. What makes him so special and what makes him so hard to stop?
Yeah, I'll start with the first part of that, right? What makes him so special? And I think the thing about Cam Skattebo that makes him special, and it's going to sound cheesy, it's going to sound corny, right? But it is the fact that he has a chip on his shoulder, right? This is the kid that it's hard to believe was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. He had 2 offers. He had Sac State and he had William and Mary. Those were his 2 offers coming out of high school. And Kenny said it at his press conference again just a little bit ago. They didn't have to. There wasn't a lot of competition to get Cam Skattebo from Sac State to Arizona State. Last season, the kid was the team's best punter at ASU. A lot of people don't know about that. He threw a touchdown in the UCLA game. He was doing everything for the Sun Devils when this was a 3-9 team. So now, obviously, with this being a team in the college football playoff, everybody's starting to see what Cam Skattebo can do. But he'll do it all if it means that this team will have a chance down the stretch, and that's what's made him so special. Now, what makes him so hard to stop is just his balance and his ability to just fight off the first defender, right? There have been a lot of Texas defenders all week saying that it's going to take, gang tackling. You're not going to just bring down Cam Skattebo one at a time. You really do have to go in kind of a horde. This guy doesn't go down easy. He looks for contact. He's like an old school runner, right? He's an old school running back. He will find contact because he enjoys it. And that really not only feeds him, but it feeds that entire Arizona State sideline.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The only way to stop him is to make him have to bubble his runs before he gets to the line of scrimmage. So you'll have to get penetrations on this offensive line and make him have to maneuver in the backfield because once he's got his head of steam, and especially the ones where he's got a clear hole and he's into your linebacker, there's going to be some major collisions with he and SEC linebackers tomorrow. But I don't feel good for anybody in the secondary. And Texas has got some hard-hitting guys that play safety, that like to come up and go bone to bone with guys. This is you won't win this battle all day. This is one that'll hurt you if you're a secondary guy, when you still have to backpedal in coverage after you've gone head-to-head with this guy after a couple of those deals. And now you've got to maneuver your body and twist and turn. You'll be hurting during the course of the day. So Texas will have to do a good job at the line of scrimmage with him and not let him get into that linebacker secondary area. Anthony, what I'm surprised about is his how fluid he is when it comes to pass catching and how easy it comes to him. He just looks like such a natural athlete. He looks like a guy could have played soccer, basketball, baseball, you name it. He can play all the sports.
He's really a natural athlete. Like I said, a lot of people don't know this. Last year, he punted in a number of games for this team. And he was it was clear he was the best punter on this team last season. He threw touchdowns. And I think he even saw it in the Big 12 title game. Kenny's not afraid to let scat be scat, throw a pass here or there. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw it in the Peach Bowl tomorrow.
Sure.
They're going to do whatever it takes to win that football game. But like you said, Bucky, he's a natural athlete. He is willing to do whatever it takes, not only to help his team win, but also to help boost his draft stock. That's something that Kenny said again at his press conference just a little bit ago, right? There's a lot of people going into this season that didn't think Cam Skattebo was an NFL caliber running back. I would say at this point, he's a day 2 pick from what we've seen. He's a second round, third round guy, especially with the fact that he can catch the ball, he can run the football, he can block for you, and he's willing to do it on special teams too. This kid really is the whole package. And kind of like you said, you got to feel a little bit worried for some of those Texas guys in the secondary, especially if you let him go kind of early on in this game. This is the last guy that you want to tackle in the fourth quarter, man.
Yeah, well said. Anthony Torti from PHNX Sports joining us here on Bucky and BK. Anthony, you said it. I mean, Cam Skattebo has kind of become a household name amongst college football fans for the season that he's had. The quarterback, Sam Leavitt, not really a household name, but he's done just about everything that's been asked of him this season, not turning the ball over. He's been pretty good with his arm, pretty good with his legs. What makes him good, and is he good enough to maybe help Arizona State pull off an upset tomorrow?
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, you could always see the potential, right? This is a kid that he transferred in from Michigan State. And he wasn't guaranteed anything, right? Jaden Rashada was still on this roster, a former 5-star, now I believe a third-string guy over at Georgia. And he won that competition just outright. He was that guy. And the first 6 games that he played, you could see, like I said, the potential of what this dual threat quarterback could really be like. Kind of needed to hone in on his deep ball a little bit, needed to maybe get his footwork under control just a little bit. But the last 6 games of the season, he has been on an absolute tear. Touchdown to INT ratio of 13-1. This kid has thrown for over 1,200 yards in the last 6 games, doesn't turn the football over. He's making plays with his legs, and he's finding guys not named Jordan Tyson, right? You saw it over the last 2 games that they played, especially in that Big 12 title game. And then in the Arizona game down the stretch when Jordan Tyson did ultimately get hurt, there were a lot of question marks, right? Is there another guy that can really be that playmaker outside of Cam Skattebo and Jordan Tyson. Xavier Guillory, Melquan Stovall, Shimon Mateer, they've all really stepped up for Sam. But you're going to have a bigger test than Iowa State in that Peach Bowl tomorrow against Texas. So that really is the question, right? I think everybody feels pretty confident that Scat's going to do what Scat's going to do. But it really is going to fall on Sam Leavitt's right arm if Arizona State hopes to advance.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to fall on his feet because he has been a willing, I'll take off and run with the ball guy. If you give him the opportunity to do that, if you're back there with your back to him, he will take off and run. And he's more than a capable athlete when it comes to running, because he doesn't run for 4 or 5 yards and slide. He's very similar to what we saw with Cade last week against Clemson. He will take off and he can make big plays with his feet. And he's got this confidence about him that was building throughout the year. I don't know if it's cockiness, but he's very confident. Your team feels like it feels pretty good around him with his confidence too.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked to Kenny on the PHNX Sun Devil show about a month ago, just kind of getting a feel for, how has Sam progressed? What's been the biggest development that you've seen, right? Because the numbers are there, you watch it, right. You see it. But for him, it was really the mental side of being able to lead this team, right? Sam is kind of like everybody's seeing. He's a very confident guy as a redshirt freshman. He transferred to Arizona State as a backup for Michigan State with an alpha personality. That's who he was. And Kenny said, it's not the easiest thing in the world to show up as an alpha and not have anything to back it up, right? Guys looking at you like, who does this kid? And Cam Skattebo, we had him on the show a couple weeks ago. He said when Sam first got here, nobody liked Sam, and Sam didn't like anybody, right? Yeah. But when you get in the foxhole with those guys, when you're going through those summer workouts, those fall camp practices, and then you start to see this guy on game day be able to win ball games down the stretch in the fourth quarter in big time moments, that's where he's actually progressed the most, being able to lead this team, be able to center himself a little bit more with that alpha personality. So a lot of people on a national perspective are seeing what Sam Leavitt is from a personality perspective now, but this team, Arizona State fans and Arizona State media really have seen it from the jump.
Yeah, Texas, with Quinn Ewers, we understand this guy's has a lot of experience. He's been playing for a while. So everybody has confidence in the program in him. He'll have his do's and don'ts during the course of a game, but Sam just, whether he does something wrong, he comes back and he's the same confident guy. And that's hard to see in a young guy. You'd think that you can screw up his confidence early if he does make a mistake, but he seems like the same guy from the first quarter through the fourth quarter, no matter how he plays. But he hasn't played bad for quite a while. It's been a long time since that Texas Tech game. He's been confident ever since then. And no matter how he plays through a game, in the fourth quarter, I still see the same guy I see in the first quarter.
Yeah, he's the definition of the next play mentality, right? And I'm glad you bring up the Texas Tech, because I've seen a lot of fans and national media want to talk about the Cincinnati game. Well, Sam Leavitt was hurt. He didn't play in that Cincinnati game. Sam Leavitt has only lost one game as a starter this season, and it was his very first road conference game against Texas Tech. Like you said, turned the ball over pretty early on in that game. Arizona State blinked and they were down 14-0. This is not necessarily a team built with Cam Skattebo as a running back to realistically climb out of a hole like that, especially with Leavitt still getting his feet wet kind of as a starter. But this team really, since then, with Sam Leavitt at the helm, they're a tough team to beat. They get in their groove and they really force opposing teams to play their brand of football. So I think that's another part going into that Peach Bowl tomorrow is the coaching kind of matchup between Kenny, between Sark. Does Kenny try and force Sark to play his brand of football, or do you see Sark kind of control the game like they did against Clemson with Blue and Wisner? So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony Torti from PHNX Sports. I've been calling it Phoenix Sports, but I got to spell out the letters so everyone can find you. A couple more for you, man. First of all, kind of a two-part question. Sorry to do this, but what scares you the most about this matchup for Texas, or with Texas, I should say, from an Arizona State standpoint? And then what gives you the most confidence that Arizona State has enough to shock the world tomorrow?
Yeah, I think obviously starting with the what scares me the most about this matchup for the Sun Devils is something that Bucky kind of alluded to earlier, and it's the Arizona State defensive line. This is a group that against some Big 12 teams, they've been pretty good, right? They're one of the best teams in the Big 12 in terms of stopping the run, but they're not necessarily the biggest group in the world. And a lot of people know that Texas has got two staple future NFL tackles on their other side. So it's going to be concerning to me for a team in Arizona State that, yes, has been able to stop the run, but they have not been able to get a lot of pressure all season long without necessarily sending extra bodies, extra guys. So if you're not able to go get to Quinn Ewers, if you're not able to make him uncomfortable, then I think you're going to see Ewers just sit back there and unload and find his targets, which obviously would be a recipe for disaster for Arizona State. So I think the offensive line for Texas and then the defensive line for Arizona State is something that scares me. But I think something for me that gives me confidence going into this game for Arizona State is the fact that the Sun Devils are 6-1 in quote unquote close games this season. It has not mattered who they've played. It has not mattered, whether or not Scat's got going or hasn't. There's been games where he's been held under 100 yards and they found ways to win this game. So if it's a close game in the fourth quarter, then I think Arizona State fans are going to feel confident just based off the fact that they've only lost one game with Sam Leavitt at the helm all year long. Why wouldn't you be confident? Whether you're playing SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC, this team has beaten the best in their conference, and they feel like they are one of the best 8 teams in college football.
Anthony, my last question to you is, how good was the wide receiver that it won't be playing? I mean, how much do you miss that guy?
I mean, Jordan Tyson was playing like a top 3 wide receiver in college football in the last 6 games of the season. If you go look at his numbers, if you go turn on the tape, this guy was averaging 8 to 12 catches a game in his final 3 games before he got hurt. It's truly, truly just heartbreaking, especially watching him go down with the collarbone injury in an Arizona game that Arizona State was already dominating. Obviously, it's football; guys get hurt, but it's certainly it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, especially if Arizona State needs to claw back in this game. Jordan Tyson would be your number 1 wide receiver. All signs point to Tyson coming back to Arizona State next season and being that number 1 wide receiver with Sam Leavitt, so that's huge. But you're going to miss having that guy out there, especially in a game that could turn into a shootout.
Yeah.
Anthony, got about 60 seconds left. Would love to get a prediction. Texas currently a 13-point favorite in this game against Arizona State. We promise we won't tell all of your PHNX Sports fans if you pick against the Sun Devils, but we'd love to get your thoughts on how this game shakes out tomorrow.
This is going to be, I think, one hell of a football game. I think there are a lot of people that look at what you got left in the college football playoff quarterfinal matchups. I think this has the potential to be one of the most fun games between a hungry team in Arizona State and a real behemoth in Texas. But I have, at the start of the season, like a bunch of people, didn't know what Arizona State was going to be, and I picked against them. I can't do it. I can't do it in this one. I got to roll with Arizona State, 34-33. I think this is an absolutely phenomenal game. I think Arizona State gets the ball one final time and they find a way to go put some points on the board and close it out. But I will say, I'll hedge my bets. I could very easily see Texas on the other side jumping out to a big lead and just making it too tough to come back from.
Yeah. You think anything over 100 yards for Skattebo means they win?
I think he's going to need more than 100. I think he's going to need probably a $150, $175 all-purpose for Arizona State to get it done.
We can't see the 150, the 175. We can see 100 or 75.
I could see 100 on the ground, and I could see 50 to 75 through the air. But that's just because without Jordan Tyson, Cam Skattebo is the second leading receiver on this team.